Hey everyone, Selena for Who is Jesus Today. I'm going to begin with this Bible verse. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant. Sober and vigilant. You can't be a vigilant if you're not a sober. Sober-minded is a state, is a character that's honorable in God, but then in all practical terms too, you'll have to be sober to be vigilant and just doing life in general. But there's that place of being sober-minded, and again, it's a character that God works in us, and I think, when we are just sober, we are balanced. We're not too much, too little, not extra when it's unnecessary. Be vigilant. Be on guard. Be alert. I know at times I have to tone myself down from being, say, hypervigilant. But I think when you grow up in a large city, you become that way. Although I am more comfortable at times, I personally feel safer in a larger city like New York, with all kinds of people coming and going about their business, than I would maybe in a smaller town. I'll say a little more of that on that if I remember as this video progresses. Be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Resist him, steadfast in faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. So first of all, this is a message to those of us who know the Lord. But I do believe too that even though we as Christians need to be practicing this kind of lifestyle in Christ, that God's principles are God's principles. So anyone who is vigilant, sober-minded and vigilant, and are aware of their environment and, the people that are around them, will likely benefit much better than having your guard down, of course. We don't want to always be on high alert, but when we are around the people in society, in this world that we are living in today, and especially in the United States at this time, with the climate that we have in our society, is that we're all going to benefit from being more vigilant. And so, as you know, on this channel, this channel is not geared toward being more towards a social, journalism, and giving you the most updated and current events and incidents in crime or politics, or even say disparities amongst populations, except a lot of times when I'm referring to the persecuted church and things that are happening to God's people worldwide. So my content, if I was to cover more issues regarding journalism, it will be often not just on the scale in the United States, but on a global scale, and referring a lot to the persecuted church. But and I do have a focus a lot of times on vulnerable populations who that are more vulnerable than others. Of course, that includes women and children, but even in that mix of women and children, there's certainly more women and children that are living in much more vulnerable situations in parts of the world than some people. So not even that is all leveled out either. As a woman, there are certain types of vulnerabilities that I'm going to have based on my agenda, but it also depends on where I live. It also depends on my environment and my connections. It also depends too, strongly, on how vigilant I am and aware, as opposed to maybe someone else who isn't. And this is why on this channel this time I was going through these two cases regarding two young women in my mind early morning. And I wondered how should I approach it, and from what angle should I come at this, and just really trying to get past the noise, the negativity, the assumptions, be it right or wrong. Again, you know what I said about assumptions, and then being presumptuous. At the same time, everyone is entitled to their opinion and to draw conclusions, and there are some great concerns with both of these stories. But I have to say, these two stories I'm going to speak today about, two women who are no longer here, did not get a lot of attention from social media. In fact, I haven't heard about these stories until recently. Like, I wasn't aware of this until today, maybe say by the weekend or the beginning of this week. So I'd like to first speak about what happened to Iryna Zarutska. Iryna Zarutska. And this is the Ukrainian woman who was brutally stabbed, whose life was taken just like that as she boarded a train that wasn't even crowded. It wasn't a crowded train. Looked to be a pretty calm environment there, where everybody's supposed to be doing their thing on their phones, right, as usual, minding their business, except for one person who really wasn't. Iryna Zarutska, whoever are her friends in the United States and Ukraine, her loved ones, yeah, sorry, this is really a tragedy. And you know, I'm going to speak about her, and I'm going to speak about another young woman who was quite young, younger than Iryna, I'm pretty sure of that. But so I want to talk about a few things. When I do discuss people's trauma and tragedies, and the trauma that results from that, I, with intention, want to be as non-biased as I possibly can by the grace of God. I say that because we all bring a little bias to just about everything and topic that we approach. You know, and sometimes, I mean, when it's people from your family, from your community, who speak the same language, the same religious beliefs, ethnicities, race, it's kind of expected to be that way at times. And there are only some of people, and there are some of us that say, though I am feeling it and I am aware to my own social, ethnic, and racial ties and national origin, okay, and gender as a woman, that I want to put these things aside, and I first want to approach this from human to human, based on all about humanity. And then as a Christian, one who wants to stand on God's word and be able to not be distracted by a lot of noise, opinions, and assumptions. And yes, biases. Oh, I didn't mention political. And political is big. Okay? Whatever political side people are on, they're going to make their assessments based on that. I don't want to be in that category. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I want to be able to make a godly judgment And even in my humanistic way of thinking, that will not just be solely based on a political party or belief, racial, ethnic, and even my beliefs as a Christian. That's number one. But you see, what I mean by that is my Christian values as a woman and standards is not going to always be the values of maybe a woman that I have to cover, who has been violated, abused, etc. Because just because a woman doesn't live my standards in Christ of being set apart and kept by the grace of God, I am also going to grieve for any woman, regardless of her lifestyle, even if it's a lifestyle that, yes, I have to call out for being immoral. I still say it is wrong that she was attacked and brutalized and killed in that way, because a life is a life. And on this channel, all lives matter, even when people do things that, I would never even get near doing. Wasn't even a thought of mine. It's never been in my history. I don't wear I don't like to wear the title easily of being like nice person, good girl. I am saved by the grace of God. If it wasn't for the grace of God, I would probably do things that I never thought that I would do. So I want to put that out there that, to me, I would say even 10 and 15 years ago, some of the way situations are approached now in this country, I'm referring to the United States of America, and I believe that social media has played a part of it, and the tensions that have been escalating throughout these at least a decade or more now regarding political parties, the blue and the red states, the blue and the red tribes. Are you a part of the blue tribe or the red tribe? Okay, how about saying neither? Can that be a tribe too? I guess they call that the independent tribe, right? So it's hard to be able to even cover and confront tragedies without first being able to find out what is the racial background, the ethnicity, or in some of our cases, the mixed racial background, and then which side are they going to be affiliated with more, or pulling them on this side or that side. That depends too on the phenotype and their national origin. And is this person an illegal immigrant and illegal? Are they a legalized immigrant? What's the country? How do they look? What's their educational background? And a lot of this is all layered and layered and layered. And then we're trying to just say, can we just spend a little time just feeling what this person must have felt as a victim at that time in their family? And it was wrong, regardless of race, ethnicity, national origin, if they speak perfect English or maybe no English, whether they are, yes, like us, a lot of us who do these channels in the conservative communities, Christians, followers of Christ, whether they are a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Muslim, whether they are from the blue tribe or the red tribe, the fact is something has been done wrong to them. Were they in the wrong place at the wrong time? It could be. Did they make a wrong judgment? It could be. Were they not really wise in how they conducted themselves. It could be all of that. And those are more reasonable things, I think, to really think about. Because misjudgment and assuming things that aren't right can get you hurt and really killed in this world. Yes. I'm going to speak now that I got all that out the way. I just want you to know that this is what I aim to try and do. I try to pull off the layers of this because if someone is a Democrat or a Republican and they have been brutally harmed, my first thing is, who's the person? And why did this happen specifically to them? And just really imagining the grief of the loss to the family. So this is where I like to begin, regardless of other aspects that I could go into. Those other things do matter because they do lead to a lot of times why the person is a victim in the first place. I think that I like to really focus a lot on this, that we're dealing with women, young women who are considered in general of any background to be more vulnerable, and that men continue to attack women and certain type of women at certain times and for certain reasons. So I began saying be vigilant because I'm going to upload the video from Fox, and I had trouble looking at this content a little bit. I have to say that over the last couple of years, I myself, I personally have been on a journey of really developing my own investigation skills. And so when I'm hearing something at times of these, say, incidents, I want to wait and get all of the information before I start to make my own, say, judgments about it. So, but the first victim I'm going to speak about, it's just really a brutal, I'm just saying, there is no a reason to go light on this attack because it happens to be a person who has mental illness, because of his racial background, and regardless of, if you're thinking, well, if you're part of the progressive, say, liberals, you need to really defend people who have disparities and really, mental illness. It is one of them, and it has not been treated right either. But at the same time, you see, you can be mentally ill, but not dangerous. How many out there know that not all mentally ill people are killers and dangerous? There's a lot of people who have chronic depression, bipolar, even they may have sadistic tendencies, but not all of them go around and just, stabbing and shooting people out there, okay, in the street. So there are quite a bit of mentally ill people that will sit all day and look at the wall and talk to themselves with their fantasies that they are sorting through and their delusions that are real to them, but they're not on a chase to take out a life. So I don't believe it's a really strong argument to say that all mentally ill people are, say, likely to do something that is extremely violent. That's not true. Because I think that is not being, say, respectful to the mentally ill community, where there are people who are taking, say, meds to deal with their, say, mental disorders, and they even are working on jobs and taking care of their households. So being mentally ill is one diagnosis, but being violent and angry or dangerous, that's another. And if a person already has a history in a background, which I believe this person did, of other gang-related activities and was arrested before, they have a criminal history attached now to say, mental illness. But not all mentally ill people are violently dangerous either, as well as not all former gang members continue to be violently dangerous. There is such a thing as rehab and recovery, and I believe in it, and I respect it. But say most of all, I know there are people, I've met people who involved with gangs, and they're saved and love for Christ, and I do not feel uncomfortable say around them, because I know they are a new creation in Christ Jesus. So I don't give up. I'm not going to plan to say give up on anybody so easily. There's hope. But where they are now, they need to be judged for where they are and what they have done. There's no need to try and advocate for a man's mental disparities when he has just stabs a young woman. There's no contact, there's no communication, nothing. Was he angry? Probably so. Was he fully angry at her? Probably not. Wrong place at the wrong time, became a victim of his inner rage. So there is no sympathy for this man who did what he did. He did a dangerous, violent act. Now, does he need help? No denying there's something not well, but we got to also look at this. It could be a combination of the demonic. Some of you out there, in the Christian community, people do have demon possession, along with their mental illness, along with their criminal history. Some people are under a demonic control, but they don't have a criminal history, at least not yet. If they continue that way, though, they probably will. Because there are people who have given themselves over to evil, and there's been no break. And it's just stronghold after stronghold. So all of these things are rooted in the spiritual, because we are not wrestling against flesh and blood. But we are wrestling against a spiritual wickedness and high places and principalities. But in a world of law and order, and in the natural world, we do have to deal with these things in the rule of law, and everyone deserves a right to live, and they deserve, say, justice when someone decides they no longer have the right to live, like this young woman who got on this train. So I wanted to say, I don't follow you on this train of over emphasizing the struggles of a man who kills a woman, and he has a history of being erratic. This has not been handled properly with the judicial system, is my opinion. People are released when they're not in a place to be released, and people will be continue to be repeated offenders. I'm all for him getting the help he needs. I want to believe for him to be saved and delivered, because whom the Son sets free is free indeed. So I don't believe in giving out death sentences too quickly. And the only one who can send to hell is God, because none of us have the power and the authority to just automatically drop people off in hell. That's God. He is the final judge, and as long as there's life and breath in the lungs, there's hope for all. So I'm not saying that he is beyond redemption, because that's not true, because he is not beyond redemption. But this woman's life is now gone. So now let's talk about her, because you see, you could imagine already she has gone through some trauma, because she's coming from war-stricken Ukraine. I was speaking about Ukraine the other day, and about a religious persecution and the traumas of this war on the society there, and I had not heard about this yet. And so now I'm just really you're thinking, she made it through the war zone, and you're leaving the war zone hoping to come into now more safety, where you don't have to think about what's going to be the next missile maybe coming over your town and into your house. So now you are leaving the war zone. All I have to say is that this young woman left one war zone and entered into another war zone. And that is the streets in the United States of America, especially in the major and metropolis cities. Yes, crime is out there, and people are no longer even doing fist fights. No one's going to come to you and just say push you down and try to knock you down too much. It's weapons. It is, people are using things. Some people can even carry around box cutters or razor blades. People are out there to hurt each other, and they want to do it as fast as they can. It's no longer about a fair fight and who has the most strength and muscles, may the best man or woman win. But no, they want the easy way out, which is really sad and tragic, and they don't know what anybody has in their pocket or in their hands when you walk into a restaurant, when you're sitting on a train. And if you think that you're prepared because you are armed, and even you are legally armed because you are a law-abiding citizen, you're one of the good guys who can carry something around. But I'll tell you what, the way that this young lady was sitting on that train, okay, Iryna, you would not have been prepared. If you are currently a police officer or a retired police officer, the way she got on the train and was minding her business and attentive to what she was doing on her phone, and just sat there and not look around and scope the place out, and feeling pretty comfortable and safe, and just sitting there to have a comfortable ride and go home. If you or me were in that place, we likely too could have been a victim of this man, of brutality. And that's why I began this with being sober and vigilant. And vigilance can become draining, I know. But we live in a world, and especially us as ladies, we got to be vigilant about our environment. I'm not blaming her for not being more alert. She probably was tired and just need a break. She's come from a war zone. The war in Ukraine has been going on now for a couple of years. Leaving one war zone, though, and coming into another war zone of a different type, a different structure. Jumping on any public transportation in the United States, and not just here, other places as well. But we cannot keep pretending some of these things are not really happening in this country, because, things aren't good. Nor did everything begin in this country on a good start, okay? But I do thank God for the progress that's made in this country. But you got some that seem like they're trying to pull things back instead of progressing in the right way. What they're doing is making progression. They're trying to say that progression is really progressing when it's really recessing. Because if we don't deal with people for what they have done, regardless of color and racial and ethnic backgrounds and national origins or their political affiliations. We're going to keep seeing all of us becoming more and more vulnerable. And yeah. And so, and I can only imagine what can happen to New York City, okay? If the mayor that they have, who is at least maybe trying to stabilize things, is no longer there. Because, law and order is becoming more and more diminished because of these identity politics as well. And we are teaching our young people and generation not to really highly regard accountability and responsibility. And it isn't good for our young people either, because they're hurting up each other and they're not really feeling like they have accountability and responsibility. And if you're going to say because they have a difficult background or mental health, again, not everybody who is mentally ill is dangerous, okay? Please do the research. I've met people in my life who are not so balanced, but they're not out there hurting people, okay? So yes, so when she got on the train, she just innocently sat in her seat. It's a disgrace. It is terrible. And there isn't anything else that you can say about it. But why I am making this content in this way is I believe in being proactive. And I believe in avoiding some things before they occur that can be avoided. Ladies and gentlemen, you gotta put the phones away some when you're out in the public. I see like countless people, and this is like every city that I have pretty much been in, except at the time that I was living in Idaho, I didn't see it as much, or Portland. But it seems like in larger cities, I see this a lot too, of all places where you are dealing with public transportation, a whole lot of people from all over the world, and lots of noise, and then to be even more distracted, you're on your phone. And so it is not good to ever avoid any public transportation, no matter how much the town even has a reputation of being, pretty mal or safe. I don't care if it's a town that has a large population of senior citizens, or say a wealthy, high-end people. You don't need to board any transportation not fully looking around and scoping out your environment of people. All kinds of people. Judge behavior. Judge behavior. Judge a behavior over color, over perceived race, because people don't always know how to racially profile people, but I guess in a way all of us minorities will look like minorities in comparison to the majority, right? You understand what I'm saying, okay? They can't quite figure out exactly what your ethnic background. You are different. You stand out, and so perhaps you are a minority within a minority within a minority. Yes, I know. I understand that. So, I'm just saying, don't pay attention to the phenotypes more than the profile more than behavior, more than profiling people on their phenotype, because there are sick people. See, I have gone enough of places where I have seen sick people come in all colors, and body types and size and height, and even different socioeconomic backgrounds, because a sick person is a sick person. You know, some of you would be surprised the variety of strange, sick, and dangerous people out there. And not everyone who has a chronic mental disorder is a dangerous person. They could be, but some people are just evil, pure evil. Don't always know how they got there, but sin, you know, sin is sin. And we're not, no, we can't think that we are safer than what we actually are. Put your phones away. Put your whatever you're doing. Don't walk in la la land when you're boarding any public transportation. Look around at the environment where you plan to sit. Look around where the environment where you plan to sit. Oh, it just hits my heart hard when I see that young woman get on that train, and I'm watching that she's working with her device, and she sat down comfortably, and there was someone behind her, very disturbed, very dangerous. And like I say, it's been hard for me to watch. Okay, it's just hard for me to watch. And the fact that no one really noticed. They were all doing their own thing in their own world. But it could have happened to them too. Okay? Someone else could have sat in front of him. Now I know it's been discussed, the issue of race. But you know something? Someone could have sat in front of him that could have been from anywhere, could have been racially ambiguous, or could have been of the same, say, racial background. And they would have sat in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't rule out that it could have even been a guy, a man. He automatically would have the upper hand is because he's attacking from behind. Whenever, someone's about to attack you from behind, well, your odds of survival are so slim to hardly none, depending on the attack. It's bad enough when you see what's coming, but you can, depending on how prepared, your preparedness, you have a much greater opportunity to defend yourself. You cannot defend yourself when you don't know what's coming. How could she have defended herself, a small frame, a petite, a woman? Well, she probably is quick and could have gotten up and ran if she could see where his arm is coming from. But that was not the case. Gentlemen, you could have been armed and ready to take out a threat. But you would not have been prepared for that. If you were looking around and observant, but if you were on your device, doing something for business, reading something, asleep, that happens too. People say, do not sleep when you're on the bus and the train. Dozing off. You could have been armed with a couple of things, but you would not have been in your defense mode. You could not have defended yourself. So what happened to Iryna? It could have happened to any one of us. Because someone is making an attack and they're launching for you from behind. And it was so fast. He was calculating what he was going to do. Others would not have noticed because he was sitting there pretty quiet, all off to himself. So you say, Selena, what would you have done? Do you think you would have survived something like that? I mean, I do believe that my life is in God's hands, but up until the last breath. But I also think, I don't really have all the answers for this, but there is a place where we are warned to be sober and vigilant. Well, over the years, and traveling around, but I think I've been this way when I was younger back in New York. Probably one of the safest cities, still, even with the crime history, that I have felt to walk around, even leisurely, has been my hometown of New York. It just depends on what part of the city, though, but often I just feel really safe and comfortable in Manhattan. Different parts of Manhattan. That is my favorite borough in all of New York. It is Manhattan. You're probably not surprised. It is Manhattan. And but I get on the trains, I look around. I get on the trains, I look around, I see. I actually don't want to stare at people because I can tell you, people get offended. You look at them too hard in New York City. Mind your own business has been the culture I grew up around. And I'm like that too. You mind your business and I'll mind mine. If you need help and I can help you, please ask. Okay? Just be respectful about it. But yeah, so regardless of that, I see people, they're reading a newspaper, they're looking at their devices. Some are dozing off. And this is me, looking all around. I gotta first get a view of who I got on the train with, like who's was there already. And then I have to be aware of who's the next person getting on the train. And watching every single person that gets on that train. Because the train ride can be nice and calm. And it only takes one person, one psychopath, one person with evil intentions to get on that train. And it could be a bus, but let's stick to the train, and everything changes. And they have their type of people that they want to go after. So whoever is their type, it could be you or me, it doesn't have to be, but whoever is their type, if they're already a deranged person and they enter that train to hurt someone, they're going to keep looking and seeing who is their type. If it's not some people who are already on the train, it's going to be someone who boards the train. So when you boarding something, you want to look all around. When I get on a plane, I do that. On the plane too, I look around at the people, because somebody is off there, rockets up there in the air. Oh boy, which does happen. Sick people get on the plane. They don't look sick. They could be a very attractive, well-dressed person, but they're sick. They're not all there. They're deranged. You get up there in the air, oh my goodness. Well, you're driving through a tunnel too on a train, oh my goodness. So my advice is to stay alert, be vigilant, prayerful. This is not to throw any shade or shame on people who've become victims because they weren't. Maybe learn ourselves from this. And it is too late now for Iryna. So, it is too late for her, sadly. But don't think that we are exempt from the same kind of incident. And even if not on a public transportation, as you walk the streets, as you go to stores and shopping. Remember, when something doesn't feel right, it very well might not be. Because we are, as Christians, I thank God for spiritual discernment. I have to say that my personality is on the higher alert side, and I've been trained in that because I'm just doing life and traveling about. And I'm observant by nature, so I like to know who's around me and why, and who's getting a little close, and even why are you talking to me? Because if someone just starts to talk to you, there has to be a reason behind that. And I'm all for, friendly small talk. I think I come across a lot of people say initially as friendly, but I also know when to back away a lot of times. And all of us humans, though, have a degree of intuitiveness. As they say, a gut, a feeling, what you feel in your spirit. But you won't know if you don't know who's around you. You won't know if you're on your device. And that's all that really matters at that time. So again, just bear with me that I see that image of this lady getting on that train and looking at that. And it's hard for a lot of people to see. But I needed to see it so I can stay even more alert. But I want to warn you out there, you gotta not be so attached to your device, because these phones have caused a lot of tragedies, not to mention the car accidents, but people walking into violence that's not even intended for them. But the thing is, they're on their device. And there's a commotion, a crowd over there doing something. There's a argument and something. You just are tuned out. And some people intentionally want to tune people out around them and just stay in their own place, in their own world. But we cannot afford to do that in society where there are evil people or deranged people, angry, and for all kinds of reasons, based on their politics, based on their beliefs, on their status, their national origins as well, based on language, ethnicity, and race, these things that continue to divide us. A lot of us can deal with the divide without becoming dangerous, erratic people towards one another. I haven't given up on humanity yet, guys, because that means I would have to give up on myself. I believe that most of us do not want these kinds of things to happen, regardless of your political stance or how you grew up. You do not want this to happen. Not to yourself, of course, but not to people in general. So I think most of us are capable of showing compassion where compassion is needed. But we do have a number of people that are growing more and more toward making their assessments and judgments based on the conditions that I called out when I started this video. And we have to look beyond this and call right, right, and wrong, wrong. If it's people of the same background that are hurting each other, it needs to be called out. Whatever that background is, whatever is the history, hurting another person, to be hurting another person, the society cannot accept this and overlook it. And I have to say, for some of you out there in our society, God help you that you're losing some compassion for just people in general who are hurting, regardless of their politics, regardless of how they were born, regardless of how they grew up or where they work, their status. You are losing compassion because if it doesn't come in a certain box, that you cannot box the situation, then you don't really show the same compassion and just really integrity to a situation that has occurred. I've seen this change in the country throughout the years, more and more. People can do what they want, but looking at the journalists on these news outlets, boy, so much talk. So many opinions are being tossed around, at times by people who are being paid quite a bit of money to toss around these opinions, to make these quick assessments. They sit up there looking sharp, looking wonderful, beautiful, beautiful women, handsome men, well-spoken, educated, well-dressed. I don't have to call out some of these news outlets. You know who I'm talking. You know who I'm talking about. I just have to really compliment them, even on their intelligence and their communication style, because they're journalists. They've been trained. It's something they've gone to school for this, and it shows. They are socially, economically, so far removed a lot of times from the people that they are covering on their news outlet and giving their opinions about, or even say culturally removed, like when you have a person who's an immigrant, who's a refugee coming from a war-torn country, Ukraine. And even I have to say, when I did content, I knew I should have gone into some of the history of Kiev and Rus, the Ukraine population, Ukrainians and Russians, and why some of this conflict has been going on for a while. It's deep, hasn't just really started. It's amongst them, but still, there's a deep history behind it, because you're going to speak about a people and not knowing, well, what is the origin, what's the root of some of their struggle and conflict. It has a long history. Just like here in the U.S., our different conflicts has a long history. A lot of these people seem far removed, and it's just all about the politics behind it, and really pushing something that, I have to say that if this was to ever become a country ruled by a socialism or communism, so many people in this land, from my opinion, just would not be able to make it and survive. You know why? Because you're too used to having too much. You are used to things being more at your fingertips and accessible. And this is even from the pockets of communities that have some disparities, but still, when you compare how we all live compared to a highly censored societies that are under tyranny and communism and the history of it, what has happened even in the past in Cuba, there's got to be a middle ground here, because taking everything away and coming under the control of the government You don't get to be all you want to be the way you have been being for so long either in the history of the U.S. I'm not a highly person of high expertise on these topics that are referring to politics in the U.S., but internationally, on a global scale, I have spent some time analyzing regarding international relations, these different types of regimes, and it never goes well under full control of government and tyranny of certain types of leaders. And if you think that this is a taste of tyranny under this administration, actually it's not. It can be a lot more. It can be that there's just no control and the people don't have much of a voice at all, not even able to. I mean, the way people want to express their opinions, it isn't the same like this in all countries, though. This level of freedom of expression, freedom of speech. People just are flowing all kinds of assumptions. Whether it's true or not, their opinions, you have a right to say it. So let me get off of this one now. This will be a little longer content, but I want to spend time on this, a woman's situation and tragedy. But I had to open up and be honest that when you walk on a train, guys, you need to, men and women, you have to be alert and aware of your surroundings. So you want to know if I have walked on that train, would I have been looking around? Yeah. Would I have sat in front of that a man? No. I would have to say most likely not. Why? Because there's seats. There were more seats. I would have looked at a lot of people, and it would be the behavior that I would be assessing. And I don't care if it's a 90-year-old man with a cane. If he's making me uncomfortable, I'm not sitting around him, because a cane is a big weapon too, isn't it? Oh, someone can knock you senseless with a cane. So that's just if it was an older person with a cane, and they're sitting there and something is off about them, and they're looking out into space, and they're looking very downtrodden and miserable. Why do I need to sit near this person and make myself subject to the unknown? That's making an assessment based on conduct, actions, and sometimes, as a Christian here, with who God has given me some discernment here, spirit to spirit, I have avoided being in situations that I believe could have been very harmful to me. Maybe not a loss of life, but harmful and harmed. It's hard to say what you would do and what you would not do, but I have been on public transportation and seen people looking very distressed. It's not a biased thing. I just feel like this person is really troubled, so let me observe them from a distance. Taking the trains so much, I know. And also in different cities and in different countries. I've taken the train in Santiago, Chile all the time. It's part of me going to work. And I can tell you, overall, it was pretty comfortable. But even then, I didn't let my guard down. I watched people all around me. I'm in a different country. the last a young lady I want to speak about, I didn't hear about this one until later, Dacara Thompson, 19 years old, and was missing beginning August the 22nd, 2025. And unfortunately, she is no longer a missing case, but it has been ruled as a homicide. Another young a lady, a very different situation. This one has gotten a lot of publicity, and there's layers and layers of opinion, as well as there's a lot of information. And though I've taken down some details, I have to say I'm going to hold back on some because the last I heard, they're still doing the investigation. And they need to pull phone records. And I think that a lot of the opinions that are out there, people have a right to have their opinions, but that not enough information has been drawn yet, except I will say this. This was totally evil, unnecessary, and she did not have to be killed at all. And I believe that murder was always the intention. This man, that this has not gotten a lot of attention either. So just a little bit about Dacara, and then we will speak about what actually happened. But like I say, I'm going to hold back until there's more information out there. But this we know, that she left her home a late night to go and get gas. She told her father, and she went out to get gas. It was pretty late night. Okay, so first of all, now she had seems like a good understanding with her father, and they were close, and there was a good connection there. As a parent, I would find it hard to trust a child that age. She's still quite young, to go out to get gas because of the crimes that are especially against women, and that sometimes women are in their cars, and these cars can pull up along a side of them, try to, lock them in and to do crimes against them. So even being in a car for a young lady, especially at night, is high risk. I would say any part of the country. Okay? So that right there to me was a potential to expect that she could run into some danger. But she wanted to go, so this was her choice. It doesn't seem like she was asking her dad. She was letting him know that's what she is going to do. She promised to return soon, and that she was just going out to get the errand and be done with it. He probably didn't have any further concerns. Maybe, I would say perhaps this is not something that she's just done for the first time, because she's probably done it before, and she returned home safe, whatever time it was. Whatever a child is doing out there when they leave the house, they're not around their parents, who knows? But at any rate, I don't believe this was the first time that she had gone out and she came back. But not this time. 2 days later, her car was spotted and abandoned. It's in Hyattsville. This happened in the state of Maryland. And it's in Hyattsville. That's the area. And what's really interesting is that this is not like a robbery, because everything was left in her car. I mean, there was her purse, her bank cards were there, and I think there's even some cash there. But the phone was not there. So someone is intending that she cannot make any further contact. She was seen on camera in the early morning hours. That would be August the 23rd. And what she was seen doing is that it's recorded that she was walking toward a black SUV. And that area was the Family Dollar store area. She had exchanged some communication with the driver. And then it was quick, and then she entered the passenger's seat. Someone said next to the driver, no, I think she entered the passenger's seat. So that has a clue right there. If she's entering the passenger seat, that would indicate that this is probably not a relationship or a friendship. Perhaps an acquaintance, or maybe just an acquaintance at that time. But if you know someone well, if it's someone that you are intimate with, you're not going to get into the passenger seat. This man charged with the crime, this criminal, was about 35. That doesn't stop a man, though. A man could be 55, 75, and do something wrong to a young woman this age. So the age is not really a factor in that respect, but for a relationship, I would say so. Also, he is from Guatemala. Also, he is illegal immigrant. He's illegal. And he has a history of drugs and alcohol. With that being said, I think that explains a little bit why this has not been on the headlines more, is because, we have two minorities here, an African American young woman and an illegal from Guatemala. And it's just like, well, what do people say, right? Because you have those that want to defend illegals in ways that they should not be defended. Yes, we should stand for, say, immigrants and be supportive of, say, immigrants who are going to allow themselves to be legalized in a part of the society. This country is built on immigration. I'm here for a few reasons, not only, but also I have some ancestry that immigrated, that crossed over into the United States because they were escaping and fleeing from a famine. So, this is a country of diversity and people of all kinds of backgrounds and nations. I remember a season, though, where the sentiment wasn't so open to immigration and the immigrants from around the world, when that's been a part of this country for a long time. But in this season in the United States, because of what is happening with the Trump administration, and I'm not going to go into all of that because I don't know all the ins and the outs of it, but now with the deep concern for illegals being separated from family ties, etc., etc., some of that sentiment I don't believe would be as strong if it wasn't the leader that we have now. Because I recall a time in the U.S. History where there wasn't even soft sentiment toward, say, legal immigration, much less illegal immigration. Illegal immigrants, I'll say it again, I've seen a time in the history of the U.S. where there wasn't much soft or positive sentiment for people who were immigrants. I've had people ask me, so where are you from? Okay? There's times people realize that I speak perfect, fluent English. Yes, I do. You know that by now, right? So, so I can say personally, sometimes people have thought that maybe I was from somewhere else and maybe just got here. So, out of curiosity, where are you from? So now people are so sentimental and soft toward illegals? Or is it just an uprising for the one who's been in charge at this time, say politically? Because we know it's about the politics. And so what do some people say? This innocent woman who should not have been murdered, no matter what she was up to or even her misjudgment at the time, this is very tragic. And it's by an illegal who already had a history and should not have even been here. And he is from a country, Guatemala, okay, who there is a condition there, a terrible thing called femicide. And you can look more into that. And I just really come to know this, how severe it is. I know there are issues where women are not treated right in some of these countries. But this is much worse. This is, okay, a femicide. And yeah, so you can imagine. And he appears to be abusive, obviously, toward women. And that being attached to his country's history, not everyone, not all the people. There are people who love Jesus in Guatemala. There are hard-working, average people like most of us. But this is a reign thing here. This is going on. Not just there, but it is pretty prevalent there. So that's this person's background, this criminal right now, who they have enough evidence to place this crime on this man. There are more details to come, but like I say, I'm waiting for more details and trying to silence the noise of opinions, because you could imagine the opinions that are out there in the family is still really just, this is just so fresh, no wounds, and they are grieving. I have my own questions. Did she know this person at all? Or was he an acquaintance? I do not think at all that she intended to get in that van and to just stay in that van because of the fact that she left her belongings in her car and she parked her car. Okay? So, I'm under the assumption there is some deception here. She got into something that would turn out to be worse than what she would have ever imagined, because she did not leave her home to get gas without the expectation of returning. She did not get into someone's van, SUV, knowing for sure that it would be her last time, and that individual was going to be the cause of her demise. Otherwise, I do not believe she would have gotten in there at all, because that would be suicidal. So she didn't know it would turn out the way it did. There had to be some degree of trust. There's got to be some degree of trust. Looking at him, would I have trust him? No. No. But there are a whole lot of men, regardless to what country they're from or how they look, phenotypically, that I wouldn't trust their behavior to get into their van. I wouldn't trust them if they had on a suit and a briefcase right next to them. You probably shouldn't trust them if they got a briefcase, okay, right next to them. No, I would not have trust him. There's times I wouldn't even trust a woman to get in the car, because sometimes the woman has a man somewhere too waiting. See, I have walked and traveled a lot on the road, and so I've had to learn some things too. You don't get into anyone's vehicle. Usually you have some enough trust to do it, even if you doubt your safety. I've come to a place in my life I wouldn't get into anyone's car on the road like that. No. And that's what I like to tell you out there as ladies. Don't get in anyone's car. She didn't need a ride. She has a car. She wasn't hitchhiking. She has a car. She intended to return to her car. So, whether this was just wrong, say, judgment on her end, or she has known this person in some way that people are still speculating, which I will at this time refrain from, the truth is, she did not deserve to die and to be brutally murdered the way she was. And then her body was tossed over. That didn't have to happen. That did not have to happen. Sometimes a person can make a wrong judgment call, but that did not have to happen. And for that to happen, that was the intent of the individual whose van she got in. For that to happen to her, that was the intent. Whatever her intent was, put it this way, for getting into this SUV, it was not to be driven away and murdered. That was not her intent. But obviously, that was the intent of the person she got into. Should I say like allegedly? Because, but yeah, as of now, he's being charged with the crime. Okay? So, if he's not charged with this crime, there are other things on his record and his history. But, at the same time, she obviously had one intent for it to go one way, and he had another intent for it to go a different way. And for that, he is, if that is true, allegedly, if that is true, then yes, he has to be charged with this crime. But this young lady's life was brutally taken out. And no, she did not enter that van and sign up for that to happen. So with all of the other opinions out there and speculation, rightly so. Because it is late at night. She is alone. And she is communicating with this individual. Exactly why? It remains open for speculation. I want to say this though. For some out there who have felt, well, was she, was it like a cell of narcotics or something? Let's put it this way though, that even if it was, I'm not saying that it is, so let's not let's not go overboard with this. Even if it was, it wasn't still a request to die. I will say, there is a drug out there called devil's breath. It grows on a flower in Bogota, Colombia. You don't have to willfully take this drug is unwillfully unleashed on its victims. Because if it's not put in your drink, it can be like a dust where it can be blown into your face. And if it's blown into your face, you would come under the, influence of this very strong a drug that takes away your will, where you are not able to think straight and you're just out of it. And anything can happen to you that way. This is used against women for sexual abuse. It could be used against women for robbery, but we can rule out that. And in this case, it seems. And men, and just, you go out to, men go out to the bar and something's put into their drink. If not that, there's other things out there. So when it comes to drugs, it could be a willful exchange there, but it could be unwillful, because there are times where people can drug you without you consenting to it. Because, that happens a lot as well. You could be drugged without consenting or purchasing it. Right. You see? And so that's why I won't say too much more, because it is very possible for someone to deceive you and make you think they got one intent and they have another. It is possible that one could not have intended to become high or for a drug, and they did, because there are ways to get a person drugged without them ever consenting to it. I mean, who will consent to losing their entire will against their will? When a person, say, willfully gets high, that's another thing. But it's possible that she could have been drugged. That's just really my speculation. That's one of them. Because she has she had a lot to live for. Had already finished high school, was considered a caring a person, very supportive, creative, had a passion for the arts, appears to be outgoing, friendly, into people, and liked. For this man, I don't believe it's that kind of interest. But I will have to say that I think at this point in time, there's just too many layers and opinions. And often on social media, the opinions are going to be, say, negative a lot of times in these circumstances with young women. And depending also on the demographics. Yes, we know that's true. Yeah. But I'm going to hold back because I know how easily it is to misjudge people. Just because you think people who are from a certain place or who look a certain way would automatically be, say, involved or subject to that kind of conduct. Because I know that there are people who can look at me and come up with assumptions or projection about, what kind of girl I am or lady I am, and they can be so wrong. I've had people project things on me that I have to say, gee, it's even comical that you think that I would actually think that or be in that place as a person. This is a Who is Jesus a channel. You come to find that out when you click on the channel. I discuss other things. Sometimes maybe someone wants to hang around for a little while just to get an idea of what makes me tick and who I am. And again, I have come across myself No one is exempt. And I think especially as a woman, and certain type of women, that it is perceived, or people want to perceive even, that you think and function a certain way, or you all about something that you're not. And far from it. So that's why I go really careful, because I know, even personally, at my stage and age in life, and this young lady is 19, that often people can think the worst before they think the best. And so that's why, that's all I want to say. But I wanted to acknowledge these two incidents, these young women, where I've not seen a lot of, say, attention from the media, from, say, the news media about them. And just want to say, one involves illegal immigrant, and the other one involves a man who is mentally ill. And there's no time to have all of this extra sympathy on these two types of individuals, regardless of what political side you are on. Okay? If found guilty in the court of law, officially everybody gets a trial, right? But as of now, that's where the arrests are made. There is no excuse for these crimes that have been committed against these women, regardless of the type of people that they are or aren't. There's no excuse for it, and they should not be defended because of their disparities in life. Because lots of people got some pretty tough disparities, but they're not unleashing rage and just taking people out of the world, or setting up people, women, to be abused and get rid of them. There are people with no disparities that do that as well. Why? Because they're evil. That's why. And that's what we should be talking about, more than their struggles at this time. Not everybody who has struggles decides to take someone's life on a train, or decide that since a woman has taken out some time with you or to communicate with you, now you're going to deceive her and take her life. She did not deserve to die like that. That's it for now, everyone. On this channel, I am not at all in the shoes of the journalists out there. I don't do that really type of social media. But there are some cases that I know I feel should get some attention, because this channel is a lot about the cares and concerns of people, of vulnerable populations. And I think as a Christian, a woman who supports a channel that is based solely on the Word of God, what would Jesus have me say as a Christian, a lady, and what will the Lord desire for us to do as a church, the body of Christ, in situations like this? And there are many, many more. I just happen to draw attention myself to these two, but yeah, there's a lot more out there as well. Okay, that's it for now. And if I'm led, I will give more on this, and this might really be it for now. You can like and subscribe. Until next time, shalom.